it was a lot of really bad profanity, really a lot of vulgar talk, really dark, a lot of anger and rage. And I was reading this book already, and I started taking the declarations and the prayers and believing that God gave me, He's in me to change the atmosphere around me. And now it's peaceful. There's hardly ever F-bombs dropped. The vulgar talk is almost completely gone, and it's a happy place. My employees are coming to work on time. They're coming together with good attitudes and productive, and the clients have stopped complaining all the time. So yeah, shifted.
Yeah, this isn't just a theory. This is actually, it works. You know, so hey, we have some seats way up here. Don't be afraid of me. I'm really nice. Yeah, I think I scared some people off with the money issue, but that's in the other room. So, yeah. All right. So we're going to look at atmospheres, shifting atmospheres, and one of the first aspects of this is, what am I talking about when I'm talking about atmospheres? And how this came about is, after about 10 years of doing sozos, I realized that the night before I would have a sozo, I would have a dream. And my dream would make me feel a certain way the whole next day. Does that make sense? So we used to do sozos only on Friday nights in the beginning because we were all volunteer. We were in hallways, on the stairs. We were trying to take care of everybody we can in closets. Kind of is weird like that. But so Friday nights, we were able to open up the pastor's rooms in the administration building, and we were able to use their offices. So, okay, good, we'll now just do it on Friday nights. And it would be about 6 to 9 month wait to get a sozo, and we had 150 volunteers on our team. Okay, so that's the beginning of this. And so as we were learning sozo, as we were learning how to do this and follow the Holy Spirit, I started realizing somewhere in the middle of this, I started realizing, what I'm dealing with in the sozo tonight on Friday night is my dream the night before. But the problem is I would feel that way the whole day. Does that make sense? So I'd actually take on the feeling in my dream. Okay. And then you would realize, the person you're sozoing has this issue. And they're obviously carrying what the dream is about. And it was interesting for me, without understanding, no one teaching on this, that actually you are picking up a word of knowledge in advance, or, to me, it would be a word of knowledge the night before, because I've never met the person, I didn't know who I was going to, and actually you didn't know who you're going to have till they showed up in your room. But didn't really teach me how to not carry that. Does that make sense? And so I started paying attention to, this is what's going on. So let's say I would have a dream. I had a dream one time, and in my dream, my husband had an affair. I woke up so mad at him. I was like, and when you coming home tonight? What's going on? And it was so out of character, and my husband was like, what is wrong with you? I said, well, here was my dream. He goes, oh, honey, that's not real. I said, I know, but I just feel the weight of the betrayal. And sure enough, the woman I sozoed that night, her husband had an affair, and it was a while ago, but she couldn't get rid of the weight of the betrayal. Okay? And so it's kind of like, okay, how do we have conversation around this so that we actually stand in authority over what we pick up? It's kind of the idea. So, gosh, I would say over 10 years ago, I went up to our preaching pastor, Dan Fairley, and I said, Dan, I have a word of the Lord for the church. He goes, great, what is it? I said, I want to teach on shifting atmospheres. He's like, great, what is it? I'm like, like atmospheres. And he thinks for a minute, he goes, like barometric pressure? I'm like, there's some pressure involved, yeah. I'm trying to figure out how do you explain, how many of you, when you got saved, your friends stopped understanding your vocabulary? Because you started talking a different language, right? And so I thought, how in the world, Lord, am I going to teach a church that maybe doesn't deal with what we deal with in sozos, as in feeling and sensing and what's going on? How do we teach that and train that? And And he said to me, Dawna, if you can't explain it quickly, you'll lose the crowd. You have to quickly teach what it is, and just catch them on it. I said, okay. So I went back, my friend Faith said, how'd it go? And I said, well, he's gonna let me preach it, but I don't know if I can pull it off. I don't know if I can quickly explain an atmosphere. And of course now, here we are 10 years later, it's become a word, right? An atmosphere, it's an atmosphere. You know, some of the songs at Bethel, and when you come, you change the atmosphere. I mean, so now we have words around it, but back then we didn't. And she said, you know, Dawn, it's really easy if you think about it. Hollywood artificially shifts atmospheres in every movie. Yeah, well, there you are. So I grew up in the scare me era. Okay, just try to scare me, right? You know, it's like, and I grew up again in martial arts. I know, again, I've had deliverance, so don't worry about it. But I grew up in the whole, you know, we're gonna watch a scary movie. Who jumps first is in trouble. You know, who jumps first buys the popcorn type thing. And it's just try to scare me because I'm so brave. You know, that was kind of the era I grew up in. Okay. And so we would get to these movies and we would be sitting there and we'd be all excited and like, and all of a sudden something scary would happen and one of us would scream, right? It's like, Well, my favorite example as I've trained this around the world is how many of you saw the movie Jaws? I know now, it's a shark movie, right? And I know now, you know, and now it's Sharknado 8 or whatever, 128 or whatever, those are so stupid. But, you know, back then, I mean, this little fake shark that came out of the water was terrifying, right? Okay, so I'm from Redding, California. We love the sun, we love the beach. And so, you know, you go into the movie theater, and of course it's like freezing inside the movie theater. I don't know why they do that, you know. But you're in there and you're freezing, and I was just a kid. And we're watching it, and all of a sudden, there's a beach scene, and it must be, it's Florida or something like, I don't know where that is in the beach, and it's supposed to be. And so the beach scene is going on, and the little legs in the water, you can see little legs in the water. And what actually happens, even though the air conditioner is blowing on you, what happens? You actually start to get warm. Because you're buying into a false reality. And then you're like, oh, what am I doing here? I'm a beach person. I want to be on the beach. What am I doing here? And all of a sudden you see in the very distance that little shark fin go through the water, and you're like, oh. And then the little legs, and then the shark fin closer, and you hear, right? And then you hear, and you're like, get out of the water! Right? It's an atmospheric shift. And if Hollywood can artificially shift an atmosphere, should we not, as believers, be the best atmospheric shifters on this planet? And my other throw out there, just to throw out, is the reason why you're sitting in a freezing cold theater and the sun is beaming on the thing and you start to get warm is because your brain is buying into an alternate reality. And can I suggest that we live here in an alternate reality? That this is not our reality. This is our reality. And if we can live with Christ in the heavenlies, we actually can have a different reality that we walk through life in. Does that make sense? So the enemy's working so hard to keep us here, where our reality is what's coming at us, maybe sickness, disease, maybe failure, maybe money problems. He's keeping us here, but actually we are seated with Christ in the heavenlies above these things, and we're going to go into this. And it's hard to stay in that reality, isn't it? I read a book, Dean Koontz book, you know, and so, yeah, because I told you about murder mysteries. So, all right, so I read a Dean Koontz book one time called From the Corner of His Eye. Okay, as a Christian, probably not shouldn't read it, but I read it. I don't remember anything bad in it, except it's scary. It's scary era, right? Just remember that. So don't go out and read it. But the premise of it is, this guy actually could walk in the rain and not get wet. Because, he said, I actually walk in a reality where it's not raining. And I thought, that is so brilliant in our atmosphere, how it is with Christ, that we actually can possibly that defies actual nature. Okay, now obviously his was sci-fi, it wasn't Christian. But I just think about this kind of stuff as we talk about shifting atmospheres. Now, I don't just think atmospheres are demons. I think atmospheres are a relationship between the demonic and your mindsets. We talked about mindsets this morning and how there are trees fashioned and God says make the tree good, right? So we learn how to do that. But this is like, so the atmosphere is telling me something and I can or may not agree with it and partner with it, okay? So we're gonna talk about how do we pick them up and what do we do to shift them when we don't want the atmosphere that's coming at us. So let's start here. So C.S. Lewis, I love it, said that the enemy always sends distractions in pairs of opposites. And Steve talked about it a little bit the other day with poverty and mammon, right? And C.S. Lewis says, you see why he does that, of course. The enemy relies on your extreme dislike for this to propel you past truth to the other opposite. Because he wants you, like Steve said, we are like, should I be here, should I be here, should I be here, should I be here? The enemy wants you so distracted on where to be on this pendulum that you actually don't stand with truth, right? And since my husband grew up ranching, he would say it this way. The enemy, he doesn't care what side of that horse you fall off on. He just wants you off the horse. So, like Steve said, we don't fight poverty, we don't fight mammon, we go after the orphan spirit, right? Because these are pendulum swings. Well, think about deliverance. We learned that in Ephesians 6:12, that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, right? But is against the powers, principalities, authorities, dominions, the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly realms. And so we're like, oh. I mean, how do you fight that? We are here in this realm. And our fight, we think, is this way, and then we find out, no, it's not here. It's against the power, the principalities, the authorities, the spiritual force of wickedness in the heavenly realms. And we actually start getting under this sense of, And what happened in this realm is we came under the weight of the demonic attack. And so we began fighting with tools that are spiritual, and we began warring, and we began to focus on this battle that is waging war against us. Okay? And so we kind of slide over here to everything is a demon. Because it's not you, it's the forces. Right? Okay, so there's truth here, but we're swinging over here. And so what happens is we get really good at fighting, and we really go, rah, yeah, rah. And I'm still dead muscle there, I know. We're working on that. And so we start declaring it, which we should, and we start doing this stuff. But the problem is you become like the one you behold. And so we begin to focus so much on the demonic that we start actually releasing his atmosphere. And so we start buying into fear, like he's so big, and oh, you gotta pray exactly right, or it's not gonna bow, and oh, what's happening here? And you understand, I'm the deliverance person at Bethel Church. I get this realm. So I'm not making fun of the spiritual realm. We're gonna see this. But I was here too. I remember all those prayer meetings where we were like, and yet the sense of, oh no, did you pray it right? Did you do this? Did you do that? Or, oh yeah, that didn't bow the first time I prayed, so I must have something wrong with me, right? And the other thing you can release is superiority. That word. Because it's like, well, I see it. Don't you see it? Well, if you just understood this fight better, then you would be fine, right? And a critical spirit also gets released over here. Because you start seeing and declaring over people what you see, and people are like, no, I don't carry that. You're like, yeah, you do, because I can see it. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay? So over here, a mess was made. Okay? How many of you have been in this mess over here? Where you're in a war, which we are, but you've taken it to the extreme that it's up to you to win it and to have to fight hard and to attack, right? And what happened because of this is the church got kind of tired of what was being released. And so the church, unfortunately, a lot of the church moved us past the truth of Ephesians 6:12, that we're in a war, that we struggle not against flesh and blood, but powers, principalities, authorities, dominions, spiritual forces of wickedness in heavenly realms. It's scriptural. But we went over here to, it's all good. Oh no, there's no war. Jesus died on the cross for you. It's all done. Oh, something just shot me in the butt. That is an arrow. Where did it come from? It must have come from you. It came from you. It came from you. Why? Because we forget that we're not fighting flesh and blood. And we start fighting the people who carry the agendas that the spiritual forces. And so we just start becoming very loud and very obnoxious towards people who believe different than us. Because we forget that we're not fighting flesh and blood. But I'll tell you what's worse over here is one more step, is when we get over here and we actually like, well, God, you're supposed to be all good. And what is going on here? Because we forget that the enemy is shooting at us. And God is all good. And he turns everything to good for those who call according to his promise. But you are in a war. And the church, a lot of the church has stuck its head in the sand and its butt's out there getting whacked. And it has no idea why. It's a great picture, isn't it? It's like we got to get our head out of the sand so we actually can position ourselves to shift the atmospheres. Okay? It's so important that we stay between these two extremes. Ephesians 6:12 is one of my main scriptures that we use because it's to show the example. But I want you to understand a few things. Ephesians 1 tells us that when Christ was raised from the dead, he was seated in the heavenlies. And it says, the power is the same as the mighty strength he exerted when he raised Christ from the dead, seated him at his right hand in the heavenly realms, far above rule and authority and power and dominion, and every name that is invoked, not only in the present age, but in the age to come. So Ephesians 1 tells us that the power is in us, at the same power that raised him from the dead and seated him here, right, is above the very things we war against in Ephesians 6:12. Do you see that? So it's almost like God is saying, pay attention to where Jesus is seated, because you're going to find that war 5 more chapters down the road. You're going to find me talking about this war. And then Ephesians 2 tells 2:6 says, and God raised us up with Christ and seated us with him in the heavenly realms. So if that's true, then we actually, when we're seated there, we actually have authority over the attacks coming against us. Doesn't feel like that sometimes, does it? So the enemy's greatest weapon is to trick you into believing that he is either equal or bigger than God. And because of that, then we have to treat our weapons of warfare a certain way. But actually, shifting atmospheres is very easy in certain areas and a little more time consuming in other areas. We're going to look at those as we go. So I want to talk, does this make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to stay here. Okay, we're not going to go into, oh my gosh, this is freaky. Okay, and we're not going to go into, oh, she's totally wrong because there is no way that there's a war. Because I'm so covered in love that I will never, ever, ever have anyone say anything bad about me, ever. Yeah, that's your life. Lay hands on the rest of us. Okay? You guys with me? You're getting silent. Preach it. So, how do we pick up the atmosphere? See, I think what happens is when we don't know that what we're picking up, we get tossed to and fro. And I think it's James who tells us, don't think you have anything if you're being tossed to and fro, right? That we actually are to stand in authority, solid ground. And how we do that is we know what is ours and what is not ours. Okay? And I think because we're not understanding the spiritual realm, what we pick up the atmospheres, the broadcast that we pick up actually affects us, and we think it's us. See, but in Genesis, God told Cain, sin is crouching at your door. So the spirit of murder, the jealousy because his sacrifice wasn't accepted, like Abel's. He says, sin is crouching at your door, but you must master it. So it wasn't his sin until he didn't master it. So what you hear in your head is not your sin all the time. Does that make sense? And if we can understand that, then we can take authority over it without fighting ourselves. See, what happens if we think it's us, then we fight us. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought that thought. What is wrong with me? Stop it, 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 stop it. And it just keeps running in our head, and we wear ourselves out when all we have to do is change the channel. That there's a broadcast, and it is broadcasting, and it is telling me how to think. It is telling me how to live. It's coming at you in social media. It's coming at you over the airwaves, and it's coming at you in the spirit realm when you can't actually see it, but you're picking it up. And if you don't know that, you're tormented to and fro, and you don't stand in authority over it. It's why the first class was so much helpful, because we talked about personal freedom. If you have a hook, the enemy will pull that hook. And if you have a hook down inside of you, you won't know it's not the atmosphere, because it'll feel true to you.
Right.
So if we think of it this way. So in the sozo ministry, when someone walks into the sozo, I will win or lose it in the first 5 minutes. Now I can gain it back if I need to, but it's going to be some work. If I can't shift the atmosphere that comes in the room, I will not have authority over it. What does that look like? Okay. So I had just finished this amazing sozo. I mean, this lady walked out on cloud 9. I mean, it was almost like, I think of it in my head like, almost like she was skipping out. And, like, It was phenomenal. God showed up. He took care of what was going on in her life. And so I'm like, God, you are so good. You're amazing. Anything can happen. And this man walks in, sits down. I don't see, I don't hear, I don't feel. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, now, I just saw God do a miracle, really, in her life. It might not have been a physical one, but it was definitely the mind shift, the change. It is going to completely change her life. It is a miracle. And, oh, great, here we go. And he says, and by the way, I've had this person pray for me, this person pray for me. He's naming off, the men of great faith that I believe in. And I'm like, oh, shoot. And then he's like, and, I've had this ministry, and he's naming off all the great ministries. Remember we talked earlier, I don't think Sozo is the only ministry. I think you might do better in some other ones. I think people could come to ours and do really well with ours. So I'm not like we're the only one, but he's naming off all these amazing ministries. I'm like, oh, man, he must really be a problem. This is going on in my head. It's like I just saw people and oh. And then I thought, okay, Bill would encourage himself in the Lord. So how would he do that? My brain is thinking this, how would he do that? Okay, well, he would probably encourage himself. So I'm like, okay, and I'm thinking, well, at least he's not had a sozo. It'll be like it's something else to try, right? And he goes, and in case you think sozo's any different, I've had 3 and they failed. And I heard myself say, great. Thank you, Jesus.
Oh, no.
You sent me the one man on the planet that even you can't heal. I'm going to win or lose it right here. Okay? Now, you could, as a therapist, call it transference, maybe, or you would just say, okay, this is his belief, you're picking up his belief. But I can't come under that belief system. Because if I do, then every time I try something and it's deflected by his hopelessness, then I'll be like, yeah, it's not working. That's not working. It's really not working. Right? So it's funny because it caught me off guard. Because I don't think that way. And so I kind of chuckled. And I'm like, he goes, what's so funny? And I'm like, dude, I cannot let you down. And he just kind of laughed. And he's like, oh, what do you mean? I said, hey, we can only go up from here. And it was a good sozo. Now, wasn't a home run sozo, but it was a good sozo. Why? Because I would not partner with his belief system that was projecting a spiritual atmosphere at me, that was telling me, agree with me that I'm hopeless. Okay? Because sin was crouching at my door. And I was able to master it and not agree with it. Now there's so many different ways to do that, to fix it. I have a really funny story. This lady drives up 10 hours, comes to see us for sozo, and she gets in, and the short part of the story is that I get grabbed to come rescue my team member because this woman is furious. She is furious. And my team member comes to get me and says, she comes in, she said just like this, that the lady doesn't come for a sermon, she put it in quotes, on forgiveness. She just wants to be free. I'm like, okay, well that's a problem because Matthew tells us, Matthew 18, that if you don't forgive, you're locked in prison.
Yeah.
So I don't have a key to that jail cell.
No.
You know, and I don't care how much. I don't have a key to that jail cell. God does, and you do. So forgiveness is your way out of jail, right? It's out of that oppression. And I'm thinking, oh great, and she is furious because, you know, we're asking her to forgive. And my friend was like, I just need to open it. I don't care, I don't need to forgive it. Everyone's been against me. And unbeknownst to our team, this was the woman who sent in a 3 or 5 page, my brain wants to say 5, but I don't want to overstate, page offense journal of all the people that have offended her, and this is why she wants a sozo. And I started to read it, and I thought, man, if my team reads this, no one will want to pray for her. So I shredded it. It's kind of like, you know, when someone comes up for physical healing, you have to stop them sometimes when they're going through their list. Because by the time they get to the end of the list, you're like, yeah, this is hopeless. Right? So you have to kind of, okay, let's take care of this, let's get some momentum going, right? And so I just thought my team, no, because you could feel the venom in this letter, right? And the victim spirit attached to it. I'm helpless, everyone's hurt me, everyone's against me, I'm gonna go eat some worms. No, you know, so you could kind of hear Eeyore, but you could also hear like a serpent venom just being released out of that. And I'm not gonna have my team read this because no one will want to pray for her. So I get in the room and I find myself sitting on my hands. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm kind of rocking forward. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And I saw in the spirit, because I'm like, Jesus, what's going on? And she's just like, oh, I can't believe you guys, and you guys were offensive, and blah, blah. And I'm rocking on my hands thinking, what is going on? And I saw in the spirit, I had boxing gloves on. And the Lord says, you're sitting on your hands because you want a bopper. And I'm thinking, I do want a bopper. Why? Because her sin is crouching at my door. And I need to master it. Well, the person who ran out and got me didn't master it. She got flustered and connected with it and the attitude of it and had to come get me. So I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting in there. And I have a second and a third in there. And it was so funny because they were partnering with us and praying. And they told me later, you know, when the first person went out to get me, she didn't say she was coming back. So they're sitting in here in this room with this woman who was just venomous. And they're just like, what do we do now? You know, the first person left, what do we do? And so this is what's going on. And so I talked to her and I'm thinking in my head, get her out of this room. Just get her out of the room. How do you do it? And I'm thinking, now one of the main cultures at Bethel is honor. So rather than call the janitor, I'm not the custodial guys, you know, whoever big is out there, this is before security, before calling them and hauling them out, let's see how we can do to honor her and get her out of the room, right? So I said, you know what? It really feels like maybe this isn't going to work. You don't feel like this is going to work for you. So maybe you drove up here and God was going to surprise you because there's a service going on and you're supposed to hear the sermon. She's like, no, that's not it. I'm doing everything I can to gently just move her out of the room. And finally, I'm just thinking, okay, Lord. So I said, okay. So, you know, and I told her, you know, and she goes, because you shredded that? No, she said, because she didn't read the letter. I didn't dare tell her I shredded it. And I said, oh, that's who she is. Okay. So I said, you know, we don't want to know, because if we know ahead of time, then we're following what we know, not the Holy Spirit. No, that's not it. I'm like, oh, great. I'm just like, get this lady out of the room. So finally I said, okay, how do we honor? I'm I'm trying, it's not working. Okay, so I say to her, you know what? I'm so sorry that you feel, like we've harmed you. Okay? And so I just think maybe we should stop and ask Jesus if you'll be safe to continue in here. Because it seems like you're not feeling safe, you're not feeling valued. No, I'm not feeling safe or valued. Okay, let's ask Jesus, should you continue? So she says, Jesus! Will I be safe if we continue? And as she does this, I said this, and I'll repeat it. And bam, everything shifted. And what I said is, I see you, Rage. I am not partnering with you, and I send you back. She couldn't hear it, my team couldn't hear it, but it shifted in the room. Why? I'm not gonna take the bait. The bait is right here, and it's telling me, let's fight, let's do it, let's be combative. I'm not gonna do it, so I'm gonna send that back. And it stopped her, and it was bizarre, it was like it slapped her. She was like, well, and now she has a choice. She can either start anew, or she can rev back up. She decides to rev back up. So she's like, well, you still didn't read the letter, and Jesus is telling me he didn't have to either. And her sozo was mediocre. It's okay, because she wouldn't forget. But she knew when she left, I said, you have a 10-hour drive, and you know what you need to do. And then tears. She's like, yeah. But she felt heard, right? She felt honored. In the midst of the fact that we could, I said, we can stay and get you completely free, but you're gonna have to forget it. And at this point, we'd already done some things that had gotten her freedom, and so she was teared up, and she said, I don't want to. And I said, I know, you have a 10-hour drive, and you can take all the time you want to figure this out. Yeah, and she left honored, right? And with equipping to know what to do. I don't know if she did it or not, never gotten back with her on that. But the whole idea of the atmosphere in there, if I can't shift your atmosphere, I will fight it in the sozo sessions. If it's in the sozo session, could it possibly be how that is in the world? Yes. But my experience came through the sozo realm. And so trying to take it out of the sozo realm and bring it into our everyday experience, how do we train that? How do we teach it? And it's taken years to actually get it so that we understand the full, or maybe not the fullness of what it is to shift atmosphere. Most of us pick them up by sensing them. And you don't even really know you sense it until you respond out of it. And so that's why sometimes we're like, okay, women, here we go. Husbands are gonna love me for this. You cannot be hormonal 365 days out of the year. It's impossible. And yet sometimes we just feel like, oh, it's just hormonal. No, you're picking up an atmosphere and you need to not agree with it, right? Now, we have certain days that it'll be harder to discern if it's us or the atmosphere. Yes. But at the same time, the rest of the time, we should be able to discern, this is me or not me. So I look at it this way. I call it check yourself at the door. How do I feel right now? So check yourself. Just think, how do you feel right now? Do you feel hopeful? Do you feel terrified? Do you feel excited? Do you feel like she doesn't know what she's talking about? Yeah. So you need to pay attention to the normal atmosphere you bring to the table. And if your normal atmosphere doesn't look like Jesus, so get free. Get to an inner healing deliverance ministry. Get free. Because the enemy will hook you any way he can. And if you have a hook left down inside, then you will fight you when the atmosphere, when the broadcast comes your way, you won't be able to discern it's not you, and you will fight you, and you'll be in this way and not in authority over it. Does that make sense? So think about something you just do not struggle with. Every one of us in the room has something we don't struggle with. Thank you, Jesus. Think about it. Ask the Lord, Holy Spirit, what is one area in my life where other people struggle and I just don't struggle? Got it? Okay. Everyone got one? Right. Okay. Next time you are going along your day and a thought crosses your mind or a feeling that jerks you in a reaction in this area, you know that you know that you know it is not you.
Yeah.
Is that not? That's not me, because that's not my norm.
That's right.
It's like, oh, good try. I'm not gonna take that mouth. I'm not gonna bite that. No fish hook here, because I'm not gonna, that ain't gonna look good, because it doesn't connect to me as normal. Now, think about maybe one thing you do still struggle with. Next time that happens, you're not gonna know, is it the atmosphere on me? And so then you're gonna be like, oh, is this me? And oh my gosh, now that she's talked about it, am I giving this off? Is everybody else noticing this thing because she's talked about it? Okay. Oh wow, oh no. And it could simply be the atmosphere, but you don't have authority over it because you're struggling to fight you. Get rid of every hook that is in there. Every bad tree. Remember we talked about fruit. Oh my gosh, there's bad fruit in my, no, don't go over here. It's just information. Okay? When we learn about the spiritual realm, there are 2/3 angels, 1/3 demons. Okay? But we've made the demonic so big and we forgot that the angels are fighting for us.
Right.
And another quote from C.S. Lewis is, you realize that Satan and God are not equals.
That's right.
That's right.
At best, it's Satan and Michael. At best. But the enemy puffs up and makes himself seem so big that we actually see him as bigger than God. And that whenever you see it that way, you realize you're not seated with Christ in the heavenlies. Because you're seeing it from your reality here versus the reality here. And I'd love to tell you that I'm always in this reality. I'm not. But I can tell when I'm not. Because of the evidence of what I see and what I pick up and wrestle with. I'd love to tell you that I never take the bait. No, I do sometimes. Today something was happening and Steve and I were having a conversation and I'm starting to get frustrated and I'm like, wait a minute, there's something going on here. And I'm thinking, what am I believing right now in this situation? Oh, okay, that's the line I believe. Well, I just renounced that line. See, I was just about to take the bait. The enemy is saying something over here. But it's like, it's not my normal to want to quarrel. I hate quarrels, actually. I'd rather bully. Oh.
I'm right.
Yeah, I'm right, because I'm right. Yeah, I'm right. That's earlier conversations. So because I'm wanting to quarrel, what does it tell me? Well, if you think about the quote, unless a Christian believes a lie, he will not sin. My wanting to quarrel is about to pop some bad fruit. So before the fruit pops, remember I told you, you can see it as you start getting more and more healed. You can see it before it pops. Oh, but it's there. Oh, it's attached to the bad system. God, there's a lie I believe in. What is it? Oh, here's the lie. Oh, I just renounced that lie. And it just completely changed. So when we are able to pick up these things, we stand in authority over them and not be afraid of them. Okay? Sometimes, so usually we sense. Anyone, could you say that you know that you sense atmospheres? You sense broadcasts. It's like, and how else do you know? Maybe you're walking your neighborhood and out in front of the same house, you're afraid or you're angry in front of that same house every time. But nowhere else in your neighborhood do you feel that. It's an atmosphere. It's a broadcast coming from the home. Maybe if you're in school, you have a teacher, and that one teacher is like, you just dread going to her class. And, you can argue, the enemy can say it's because you're not smart in science, and it's a science class. Or, oh, you just gross as, yeah, because you have to cut up in the little animals, whatever you're sensing. But actually, if you stand and say, you know what, in every other classroom, I'm not dreading going in. So there's an atmosphere that is coming at me from that room. Maybe the teacher's making me feel stupid. Maybe the teacher's like, I can't believe you're skittish about that. It's just a frog. Get over it. Feel a frog? Smart. Do you know the way your brain works? What you believe will actually open and close pathways in your brain. So if you believe you're stupid, you will close off the pathways to learn.
Wow.
Really important. important what goes on in here. It was interesting, I was just in with Steve Backline, which you guys all love, and I heard him say, you know, the biggest problem in an area is not the regional spirit, it's what's between my ears. And I'm like, that is so good. Because if we know who we are, then we're not gonna partner with the regional spirit. But a Christian partnering with the regional spirit is very dangerous, because we have the authority, right? I talked about that with the speaking. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, is this good? Good?
Yes.
I'm trying to expand because I have more time, so I'm kind of going off on some trails here, but, so, sensing it is very obvious. It was so funny one day. So I woke up, I was on a trip, and I woke up angry. I was so angry. And I'm thinking, is it hormonal? Is it not hormonal? I don't know. And I'm praying it off, God, I see you in anger, I'm not gonna partner with you, and it would not shift. And I just got more and more offended about stuff, and I'm just angry. So I think, oh, my poor team, their head bit off. So, so I go downstairs, I'm like, okay, I just gotta tell you guys, I'm just angry, and I'm praying through it, and it must be hormonal, because it didn't break, and I'm so sorry, so if I chew your head off, it's not you, it's me. And then I had this revelation, because they're all looking like, I'm like, hey, anyone else feeling angry? They're like, no. Right. So we broke, you know, we just say no, spirit of anger, we're not gonna partner, spirit of offense, we're not gonna partner, whatever it was, and we send you back, and it broke. So the reason why it didn't break immediately is because I still had that little hook. And the hook was, you know, sometimes I get hormonal and I'm just mean. And that's that hook, right? It's like, because your hormones and you get, oh my gosh, I can't take it. And I just tell my husband sometimes, I'm like, okay, honey, I want to kill you right now, it's not personal. He's like, good to know, good to know. But the rest of the time, I know it's not me. But there are times when you're like, I think this could be hormonal. And so just having that little bit of an open door to the enemy kept me from having authority over it. Does that make sense? And so once I looked around and my whole team is like this, I'm like, oh, this is so not me. And instantly, it broke. It's that tricky with the hooks and stuff. Yeah.
So were you staying in a hotel?
Yes.
So you think that was part of it?
Yes. Yeah. It was the atmosphere that was coming at us. And so we'll go a little further with that.
Okay.
So one of the aspects, again, that we know at Bethel is you don't complain, right? Because we are very grateful for people, we're grateful for what people can do and can't do, and we just don't complain about situations, right? So we're on a trip, we're actually in Australia. We are having the time of our lives. We are in this beautiful condo, we're having so much fun in Australia, and it's right before the next day we're leaving to another area, so they move us from this condo to a hotel room in town. Okay, now it's in town, so it's gonna be a lot more expensive, so it's much smaller, right? Okay, so we get dropped in, and we're like, oh, this is kind of old, you know, but we don't complain. And so I get in the elevator, and it's small, and I roll the suitcase over my foot, and I'm like, oh, I did not feel good. If it was not this small, it wouldn't be a problem. Okay. And as we're getting out, you know, we're walking down, and your suitcases are hitting the walls, you know. I tell about this in the book. And I'm getting more and more frustrated. Now I know this is not hormonal because I've been having a great time. But I'm getting frustrated, and I'm thinking, okay, it's because they're not honoring me as I deserve. Now I know that's not a Bethel, a bit allowed mindset. So I know to take that thought captive. Okay, Lord, I'm so sorry. And so I'm fighting me. I'm so sorry, Lord, that I'm having this moment of I deserve it. I'm so sorry, Lord. I open the door to go into the hotel room, and the door doesn't open all the way because her bed hits the bed, right? And so I rip my coat on the door handle, and I'm just like, get me out of this room now. I'm like, I told the team, we're going to dinner now, get ready. I am just like seething. I'm just like, Okay, and at the same time, the enemy is like, see, you're such a horrible person, you don't carry the core values of Bethel's house. I mean, so he is harassing me, okay, well, that's a clue that I'm not fighting with. That's one of the clues. Okay, so we get into the restaurant, there's nobody else seated, we sit down, and no one is coming to wait on us. Nobody. We're there maybe 15, 20 minutes, we've not had water yet, we've had nothing going on, and we're like, what in the heck is going on? And we're getting like, do we need to go somewhere else? You know, and do they not know we're American and we expect water at the table? What is going on? And I looked at Teresa, and Teresa said, well, you do realize we're in the financial district. I'm like, it's a spirit of entitlement. Oh, I see you, entitlement. I'm so sorry, Lord, that I bought into the entitlement I deserve. And I just break off the lie that that is my normal, because it's not my normal. And I'm so sorry, Lord, that I took the bait. And the whole team just said, Lord, we are so sorry that we are buying into this entitlement. We bless the church. We thank you with what they are able to do. And we just send you back spirit of entitlement. And we release grace and da-da-da-da. And instantly, we got waited on. So there is an atmosphere that you tap into, even if you're not understanding, because you're sensing it, and it becomes an emotion that you carry and start to walk up. Does that make sense? Most of us pick it up that way. If it's not your normal, then it's not you. Make sure you check your normal. I taught this, and I said, check yourself at the door, and I talked about it for school, and about a year later, this mom came up to me and said, you know, you taught this, and my son was in the room. I'm like, yeah. He goes, he took you at your word, and what he did is every time, because he was in high school, and he would change rooms, and he said he would stop and check himself at the door, and he would know, how do I feel, and when he would walk in the room, he would know it's not his, and he would shift the atmosphere. And I'm like, well, I didn't quite mean it like that, but yay, every door, I didn't quite mean it like that, but I'm like, way to go. She said, he's seen such great change, like the office, because we have the authority to shift the atmosphere. We are light, right? We're to be set on a hill. We are salt, right? And so I think a lot of us have allowed the world's salt to get on us rather than us salting and flavoring the world. Okay. Let's think of this. Sometimes you audibly hear it, and sometimes you hear it in a way where it's talking. And that's like I'm saying, when the enemy starts talking to me like you're worthless, you see you're a horrible person. A lot of that is specific to what you're fighting, because the enemy can't read my thoughts, but he can tell by my reaction, probably what I'm believing, and so he's harassing me. And sometimes it's just a broadcast in the area. Okay. I laugh that there is a store in town, a grocery store, that I don't shop in. Because I can't get through the cans, the aisles of cans lined up without cans of chili con carne and corn. I can't do it. I gotta buy it. Gotta have them. Gotta have them. Great price. Gotta have them. Doesn't matter that I have a bunch of chili con carne and corn in my, it doesn't matter. I knew I had a problem when my young son says, Mom, I said, I had back problems at a time, and I said, Timmy, I need you to come with me. He's probably 5th grade, 12 years old or something. And I said, I need you to come with me and lift stuff for me. He goes, great, Mom, but if we go, we're bachelor shopping. I'm like, what is that? He goes, only what's on the list. I don't know where he got that. I'm like, okay. He said, so I want you to look right now, Mom. We're not wasting time. We're going in, get it, and getting out. That's how we're shopping. Okay. Now I'm dallying around, Mom. I'm like, okay. So write down what you need. And I look, and I don't need corn or chili. It doesn't go on my list. So we get there, and I go buy the corns, and I'm like, and Timmy's like, Mom, is it on the list? I'm like, no, but I need it. Mom, it's not on the list, you promised. I'm like, I told this story in Norway, and our Norwegian translator had been to Bethel for 3 years, because I know what store that is. Because the cans talk to me too. I've told this story around, never tell the name of the store. And this guy raises his hand in the back. Is it this store? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you know, I work there. I'm like, oh, shoot. And he goes, you know what they tell us? What? To line the cans up in this aisle so that they call to the customers as they come by to buy them. You guys are like, get me out of this room. What is he teaching? It's got to be more. No, it's okay. we actually would easily discern what is not coming from him. And I love some of Pastor Bill's quotes. I love to quote him because it makes me feel smart. But, you know, I just love some of the ways he talks. He goes, you know, any, what is it? Steve Backlund quoted him in our last meeting, so that was kind of funny. So it's Steve, and I don't know. But basically, Steve Backlund took the quote and put it in his own. It says, I can't trust any thought that doesn't have hope attached to it.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't have hope, there's a lie. So I can't trust it. I know I can have it, but I can't trust it as truth. Because it has to, if there's no hope, it's attached to a lie, because we have Jesus in us, the hope of glory. Okay. So here's one that's a little scarier. Don't go over here. Don't go over here, as I tell you. You guys were kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm going over here because she's weird. No, there is a spiritual realm. But don't freak out when I tell you this one, but it was awesome. It happened right before the book went out, so we added it in the book. So there's a store in town that changed their bathroom policy to, you get to choose which bathroom you go into depending on what sex you think you are. Not how you were equipped, but how you think you are. So if you are equipped as a man, but you believe yourself to be a woman, you use the women's bathroom if you want. If you want to, you don't have to, but if you feel more comfortable, you can do that. And so, you know, I don't know why you just can't have, you know, one unisex bathroom and pick whatever you want, but, you know, so it is interesting, and you're just like, okay, I wonder what this is gonna do. Well, my friend is shopping in this store with her son, doesn't even pay attention, and there's no one around him. He's a beautiful little boy, but he doesn't have long hair, but he's beautiful. And they're shopping around, and no one is saying, oh, look at this cute boy, there's nobody around. And it's like, I think most of Reading was like, I don't know if I want to shop there, I don't know what's going to happen there. As they're shopping, she keeps going, and it's really kind of quiet, and all of a sudden, her little boy stands up in the shopping cart and says, I'm a boy, not a girl. And she looks around, of course, you're a mighty man of God. And there's nobody around him. And she realizes, oh, he's picking up the broadcast of sexual confusion because of the policy of the store. You get to choose. And as he's going through the store, he's hearing, are you sure you're a boy? Because you're really cute.
Yeah.
I wonder if you're a girl. Oh my gosh, that scares me. I have no authority. No. It is information. And it keeps us actually, it slaps us out of this place with our head in the sand. And it says it's time for us to start paying attention that there are broadcasts. And we need to be broadcasting. Right? And you know what? We need to stop broadcasting hate. We need to stop broadcasting our anger towards people. And we need to start sitting with Christ and start releasing his authority over those agendas that are filtering to us. A lot of, when we travel through Europe and the UK, a lot of our churches aren't allowed anymore to have their bells go off because it irritates people. They're like, we don't want to get up that early in the morning, because it used to raise the farmers up and tell them what dinner is and lunch. And so they've stopped a lot of the churches from being able to ding, 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 right? But the mosques get to do their what's going on? This is silencing of the God's atmosphere of get up, it's time to start your day. Oh, it's time for lunch. Hey, you get to go home now. To releasing atmosphere and what's coming out of the mosque. Oh my gosh, that scares me. No, shouldn't, but it's really good information. Dreams. You can pick up atmospheres in your dreams. I was in the UK on a trip, and my sons were with me, and I think Timmy was 15 or 16 at the time, and they're in another room, and I travel all the time, and I just don't believe in jet lag, and, but I know it happens to people, but, so I was sleeping, and all night long, I had nightmares of, someone trying to rape me, violently, and, like there was guns and knives and all kinds of stuff, I kept waking myself up just before I was raped, and just these nightmares kept going and going. I was exhausted, so I got up and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I thought, let's just start our day. And I went and knocked on their door. And as I knock on my boy's door, Timmy gets up and he's like, yeah, Mom. And I'm like, you got jet lag. He's like, it's not that, Mom. He says, all night long I dreamt of rescuing women from being raped. Guess what was in the atmosphere? Sexual violence. Yeah. I was in another town, and I was sound asleep, and it was like, I had the sense, get up now and go buy a pornography magazine. I was like, get it now, go get it. And I'm like, what the heck? But it woke me up so strong, and the desire to go now. And I'm like, and I'm like, I was so shocked, I was unsettled. Now, I know that's not me. And I know it's not me. I'm not wanting to go buy a magazine about girls. Okay, now I can see if they wanted me to do the other one, I might be like, okay, that's all right, but not me, okay. That'd be funny. But seriously, at the same time, I'm like, I know this isn't me, but I can feel the get it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm sitting on the chair, and I'm like, I rebuke you in Jesus' name. And I'm thinking, how in the heck do the men in this city survive this? Because I'm a pastoral woman from another country who doesn't have a problem with pornography. I cannot imagine what it's like in this region to be a man. And sure enough, when we talked about it, they have terrible problems with pornography. And I'm like, of course you do. And you got to start fighting it here. You got to start taking authority over it here, because it is a broadcast to go buy it. No, just buy it. It was crazy. But it was a wake up to what's going on in the atmosphere. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, let's say you struggle with pornography. Then you wouldn't know it's not you, and you'd be fighting you. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I thought when I got here I would be okay, but I'm not okay, and oh my gosh, no God. And then you would disqualify yourself if you were like on a missions trip. You would be like, oh, I'm such a pervert. Oh gosh, Lord, I'm so sorry I shouldn't even be here. And you're under the atmosphere and not understanding it. I tell people, and we teach now. We've been going in and teaching some mission trips, invite us to come, and they're like, teach us about this. And I say, okay, one of the first things you need to know is the enemy is going to try and get you to quarrel before your trip so that you're at odds and not in unity. And everyone starts laughing because they're like, getting using that. And he's going to try and get you to bite into a sinful desire so that you are disqualified from being on the team. And they're like, totally get it. And so they would say later that as they were learning about this, they could hear their team while they're on the trip go, that was what she talked about. It's not on. Well, it was very helpful. My oldest son was 15 on his first mission trip with Bethel. And he was in this place, and it was sexual stuff everywhere. And he's just like, I shouldn't be here. I'm picking up all this stuff, and I'm such a terrible person. And the teacher got them all together and said, hey, you guys picking up sexual stuff going on? And they're like, I don't know. And she goes, it's not you. Knock it off. Oh. They did something when someone besides his mom told him. But it completely shifted the team, because she was willing to say she felt it, and she was able to tell them it's not you. So they were able to stand in authority over it instead of hide and think they're bringing it on. Okay? So one of the main issues is just, I see you and I'm not going to partner with you. And then it will usually shut off that volume. Okay? We're going to go on to some more areas how we pick it up. But as you turn off that volume, remember, that's only half of it. If I turn the channel off, it turns the channel off for me, but it doesn't turn it off for everyone else. So if I want to release a new channel, I want to turn on a channel that other people can hear. So if there's a place of pornography, then I'm like, God, I ask that you would, number one, I see you pornography, I'm not partnering with you, and I send you back. And Papa, I ask that you would release purity over this region. And I would release it and begin to release it until you feel inside you that there is a beacon out there that you're releasing so people can listen to another channel. Okay? It's not just about hiding and turning our own channels. It's about giving a new channel for people to buy into. Okay? Smells is a fun one. How many of you have smelt the demonic? Yeah. How many of you smelt either Jesus or Holy Spirit? Yeah. I was in Mount Shasta, and I was teaching at a Christian church, but Mount Shasta is known very much for